Some of these guys at the games, they had 15 minutes and they got good. Now you can say, well,
The Kings are champions. The team named number one on your Associated Press just this morning. Miami cemented its status as the team of the 80s, dominating the decade with 3 national titles now in 6 years under 3 different head coaches.
This national championship was won because of the assistant coaches, and most importantly, our football players.
Erickson becomes the first rookie head coach to win it all in 1948. These are like Bernard Funk to part with 2 trophies as their legacy.
Now, you were to be exceptions amongst the guys that had gone through there before, because now you weren't riding on their coattails. Now you were part of a starting unit that won a national title.
But it's everything so fired up. It's
action on the ice and in the studio. Series distinctness, but their shot to come.
Good evening. Today is April 7th, 2026. This is Durango City Council regular meeting. It's 5:30. Could we have roll call?
Counselor Lawyer. Here. Counselor Gonzalez.
Present.
Counselor Koso.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Woodruff
Here.
and Mayor Yazzie.
Here.
The next item on the agenda is the reading of the Indigenous Land Acknowledgement.
This is a call to honor and respect Indigenous sovereignty and self-determination. As residents and visitors of Durango, we are called upon to educate ourselves about the history and cultural heritage of the land we inhabit. The city of Durango is situated on the ancestral homelands and territories of the Nuchu, Ute, Jicarilla Apache, Pueblos of New Mexico, Hopi-Sinom, Hopi, and Diné Navajo nations. The original stewards of this land were forcibly removed and exposed to countless atrocities by the United States government, including repeatedly broken treaties, forced assimilation, the tragic legacy of Indian boarding schools, and the loss of ancestral homelands. We recognize lasting generational trauma exists within Native communities today. We affirm the continuing importance of ancestral sites to descendant communities as integral to the living cultural landscape. This acknowledgement only becomes meaningful when combined with accountable relationships and informed actions. May this serve as a step toward inclusion and reconciliation.
Could we have the introduction of the legislator, please?
Yes, hi, good evening. My name is Liz Torres, and I am here with my colleague, Sam Guzman. We will be your interpreters for today, and we are here from the Community Language Co-op. If you are joining us on Teams, please go to the More menu and then select language and speech from there, and then you can select English or Spanish to be able to listen to the meeting in Spanish if you need to. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Liz Torres y estoy aquí con mi colega Sam Guzmán y el día de hoy seremos sus intérpretes. Si usted está aquí por medio de Teams, por favor vaya al menú de más, que son los 3 puntitos, y entonces seleccione de allí el idioma de su preferencia para que pueda escuchar la junta en español. And we can go ahead and get started.
The next item is opening remarks by Mayor and Council. Four is presentations and proclamations, with the first being a proclamation recognizing April 13th through April 17th as Arbor Week. Do we have either the arborist or someone accepting?
Okay, so this is Arbor Week, April 13th to 17th, 2026. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling to Nebraska Board special decipher plate. This holiday was first observed now observed. Can use the cut heating by the National Art desires to continue to investment of it department assist citizens taking direct and experience situations.
Thank you.
The next proclamation. The next proclamation is a proclamation recognizing April 2026 as Earth Day month. And I believe Gail Harris is here to accept.
Make some comments.
Let me,
first or
let me,
after?
let me
Sure.
read this first. I haven't seen it for a bit. This is a proclamation, Earth Month, April 2026. Whereas in the spring of 1970, Senator Gaylord Nelson created Earth Day as a way to highlight the need to protect the air, waters, natural environment, and the public health from the damages of unchecked pollution. And whereas Earth Day was recognized nationally and globally in April and will Wednesday, April 22nd, the year 2026. And whereas the city of Durango will celebrate Earth Day with local nonprofit groups, citizens, and businesses, organizations on Saturday, April 18th, 2026, with a parade along Main Avenue, an event at Buckley with an electric vehicle ride and a drive on 13th Street. And where the city of Durango is a community committed to achieving carbon neutrality, preserving our natural environment, conserving resources, maintaining our future, and improving the quality of life for the benefit of present and future generations, visitors, residents, and neighbors. And whereas the city of Durango recognizes its role in acting for the earth by empowering and encouraging citizens, businesses, and organizations shared efforts to conserve natural resources and reduce waste and pollution. I therefore, as the mayor of the city of Durango, do I proclaim 6 to be. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you, Heather.
And I'd like to make just a couple of comments. Good evening, City Council. I'm Gail Harris, 2024 Glen Isle Avenue, and this is Heather Erb, also of Glen Isle Avenue. Very important place we live here. Thank you to City Council for your commitment to Earth Day and Earth Month, and for your sustainability goals of increasing our use of clean energy and reduced greenhouse gas emissions. In honor of Earth Day and Earth Month, I encourage the city, our residents, and visitors to take meaningful action to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, increase our use of clean energy, live more sustainably, and promote social justice. Our Earth Day celebration is one way to learn how to live more sustainably by having fun and enjoying where we live. Mayor Yazzie will be making remarks at Earth Day and will be in the procession of the species, and I hope anyone else who would like to do that will come and join us. Ways that the city can take action. And these are just examples. I can't do a full list. Make it safer for people to walk and bike to work and around town. Buy electric vehicles to save money on maintenance and fuel costs. Boy, right now that would be a huge savings. Make our city buildings more energy efficient. Install more solar panels. Reduce energy use and use more clean energy. The other part is affordable housing. Our workers should be able to live where they work. Let's increase our affordable housing and reduce the number of vacant homes. It doesn't help our community for people to have second, third, or fifth homes here that they rarely live in. If people live where they work, it would reduce transportation emissions significantly. And ways individuals can take action. Plant trees. We've got Arbor Week. Good time to think about planting trees. Drive less, walk, bike, or take public transportation to use that more. Make your home more energy efficient. Install solar panels for clean energy. Use an electric vehicle. Eat more plants. Fly less. Encourage City Council to take specific action to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. Thank you so much for the Earth Month proclamation. It is so meaningful to honor the earth, our home, and let's all do what we can to keep it a livable home. Thanks.
Item 5 is city manager updates. Would you like me to read the titles, sir?
Yes, please, if you don't mind.
Item 5.1 is the Economic Alliance 2025 accomplishments and 2026 plans with Sarah Tober.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. As I was driving to work and school this morning, and I told my son I was going to be speaking tonight at the city council, and I wasn't going to be able to pick him up from school, he said, "Oh, that's great." And I said, "Why?" And he's like, "Because I know the mayor." I do love living here. 2025 was a big year for the Alliance. We had a lot of great accomplishments. Hopefully you got to see the Herald article about some of those accomplishments, but I just wanted to take a little bit of time to talk you through those, as well as provide any time that you might have questions or guidance for the Alliance. Our mission and our vision here, our board had a board retreat in September and really doubled down on our mission and those 3 pillars. So we are focused on, fostering public and private partnerships that enable building business capacity, supporting attainable housing for the community workforce, and providing workforce development in that order. So moving right along. Talking about each pillar one by one, our business growth, it is important to us to keep those local businesses here in La Plata County and here in Durango, and to ensure that they reach their full potential. So some of the ways that we do that is we have our monthly member investor meeting, and that is free and open to the public. We typically are averaging about 100 people attending, and I know a number of city councilors come to this as well, but we have our public partner update, which includes not only the city of Durango, but La Plata County, the towns of Bayfield and Ignacio, and then we typically have 3 speakers that are public or philanthropic partners. Private or philanthropic partners. We also have our, and that investor member meeting is the second Tuesday of the month at the Center for Innovation from 8 to 9 a.m., except for the month of September. The La Plata Data Dashboard is where you can find the latest information on La Plata and Durango demographics. So we have partnered with Region 9 on having a more dynamic dashboard around that. And then we also put together a rapid response team last year. We're calling that the La Plata Opportunity Network. That is to help our businesses that are scaling quite quickly. Like last year, we came together around Agile, who thought they were going to have 41 jobs here, and they ended up with over 90. And so they needed additional help to navigate some of the resources that we have in La Plata County and in Durango. And the city of Durango was at that meeting, as well as Region 9 and the Office of Economic Development and International Trade, as well as the Chamber and a number of other community partners. Our Alliance Summit. This is going to be our 19th annual summit this year, and we have an incredible lineup ahead. We have 3 keynote speakers that are nationally known speakers. We have Kyla Scanlon, who is a Gen Z economist, and she wrote the book In This Economy, which I think we can all relate to these days. And so she really breaks it down, the importance of how Gen Z interacts with our economy and investment and that sort of thing. We're going to have the state demographer, Kate Watkins, there. So if you're interested in demographics around La Plata County, especially over the next few years, she's going to be there to enlighten us, as well as Theo Wilson. And he is an author, an actor, and a slam poet. And his talk will be about generational wealth as well as attainable housing. So really interesting stuff there this year. And again, movetodurango.com is where our La Plata Opportunity Network lives. So we basically have a local job board there, as well as resources around housing. And we just want to make it easier for companies that are moving here or business owners that are moving here to purchase companies, as well as entrepreneurs, small business, to have that hub for additional information for industry and business. And then everyone here is very familiar with the Early Child Care Strategic Investment Plan, so I will not spend too much time on that. Under our workforce housing pillar, we are still very involved with attainable housing for the workforce. The RHA, as you all know, was under our umbrella for 3 years. They caught a lot of momentum, and they are now on their own. And we are managing the Housing Catalyst Fund, as well as the revolving loan fund that was established under that RHA. So the Housing Catalyst Fund, I'll talk a little bit more about that and its direct impact with Durango, especially as it pertains to Mike French helping to set that fund up years ago, and being the catalyst for that $1 million being invested here locally. The revolving loan fund is another $1 million fund that is a legacy fiscal tool for our community, and it is for the construction phase of a project. So whereas the Housing Catalyst Fund is for pre-development up to $100,000 for these projects for attainable housing, the revolving loan fund is for when it goes into the construction phase. And those are 1.75% grant loans, So that's a great way to diversify that capital stack. And we also partner with Region 9 on that loan as well. As far as workforce development, Project Run has been a really big success for us and our partners, Fort Lewis College, the Southwest Colorado Education Collaborative, when it comes to workforce development. We also partner with Pueblo Community College. We're exploring a partnership with San Juan Community College. There's just the ecosystem itself. There is a need for a partner who is focused on industry and business, and that's where we fit in. We have our higher education partners. We have Durango School District is an incredible partner as well, but we are kind of filling that space for industry as it pertains to workforce development. So that grant is wrapping up in June. That was a $1.25 million grant. It helped us to convey a lot of funding for workforce development here in La Plata County and specifically in Durango. And we will be continuing that program even after grant funds end in June. So we are already exploring other options for funding this program, keeping those 2 leadership classes going that were established because of this. We had a leadership strategy and a leadership people. And again, these are micro certificates that are created for industry by industry. So industry and business said, this is a need for us, and we met that need by creating 2 of these leadership classes. We've had almost 150 learners, and more than half have taken both of these classes, and we do have demand for more. So that's great to hear. The other thing that that industry and business identified as a need was early child care. And so that was part of the impetus of why we pursued the Early Child Care Strategic Investment Plan when we realized that we couldn't simply slap a microcert on this issue and fix it. Access Health System came to us last year as well. They have an Opportunity Now grant, and they needed help with conveying that for healthcare pathways specifically. So we have been working with them now going on 2 years to provide wraparound support services for people who want to join a healthcare pathway or are already on their way. We've been able to do a lot of great work with that, including tuition reimbursement. We're buying stethoscopes, all kinds of things things to ensure that we get that pipeline full for our healthcare. We know that that is a need in La Plata County and throughout Region 9. This is a little, we will be ending this work at the end of this year, but this is an example of us stepping in as a nimble partner to help support access and ensure that those funds from OEDIT came down here to the southwest corner. And in the future, another organization will carry forward healthcare pathway work. But we have been able to support access during this time. So again, Project Run will continue beyond June, so you can look for more offerings, and I'll talk a little bit about that at the end. So this is our impact. Last year we were able to put over $1 million into the economy, and we were able to put that in the form of workforce housing, workforce development, and building business capacity. It's nice to be able to say that we've been able to place those dollars into our economy, and that is 10x return on what our investor members make into the Alliance. So our investor membership, we target about 120,000 in membership. And so again, last year we were able to put 10 times of that into our economy. And just for you all to know, 25 years ago when the Alliance was formed by the Chamber in partnership with public and private partners, it was decided by all the public partners that they were going to support the Alliance to the tune of $2 per resident. And so the City of Durango, the Town of Bayfield, and the Town of Ignacio have continued to make good on that promise of 25 years ago, and we are working closely with the county for them to get back on track to that commitment as well. So talking about the Catalyst Fund, because that $175,000 that was deployed last year was specific to the City of Durango. That is where the projects were. That's where the 2 rounds of investment were made. So we were very excited to be able to fund these 2 projects. And to date, we fundraised about $1.2 million for this Catalyst Fund. We've deployed about 600,000 of that, and that is resulting in over 550 units around La Plata County that are attainable housing units being built or preserved. So those are the 2 projects that we made a Catalyst Fund investment in, and that is the amounts that they were awarded. So we're, again, very excited to be a part of Lightner Creek and Rivergate, and we now have round 7 open currently. Kind of focused already on the Alliance Summit for 2026, what it's going to look like. And again, we typically have, 350 to 450 attendees. And we're very excited about the breakdown of some of those stats. You can see that 45% of our attendees are in some sort of executive leadership role. The amount of speakers that we had were about 32. We had over 15 industries represented, 28 local sponsors, 41,000 invested locally. We anticipate that number being a little bit higher this year as we've had a lot more capacity to focus on the summit, and we're a lot farther along than we typically are at this time of year. I'm very happy to report. The Early Child Care Strategic Investment Plan, I'm sure that we will do a full debrief with the City Council this year on where we are with it. But we have, as you all know, we are in the first year technically of the investment. So these were some of the things that we had hoped to achieve in this first year. And we are well on our way for the child care infrastructure side of the fund. And because of the City of Durango's investment, we are well on our way on the child care investment side of that fund. So you'll be hearing here pretty shortly about the wage stipend that the Early Childhood Council is leading, and what kind of impacts we expect that to have. Some of the things that we've learned along the way. We have seen this plan picked up around the state of Colorado as a framework for other communities and counties. So we've seen people paying attention to what we're doing down here in the southwest corner and are interested and wanting to also integrate a similar approach. I think everything that we are seeing with federal funding for childcare, we know that local dollars are more important than ever, especially with our statewide budget as well. So I do believe that long term, this has to be a state and or federally funded initiative. But I think that the work that we're doing here is helping to stabilize the industry. It's helping to grow it. We're seeing new child care centers come online, new child care slots coming available. And I'm very excited to be able to report to you all later in the year of what some of these metrics actually look like after having had some time and some investment by the community. I'm also working to get even more business engagement with this. We know this is a new fund and we know that this is a new initiative, and businesses are being very strategic about where they're investing their dollars. So we are still working on that, as there are tax incentives for that investment, as well as working with some of the projects here in Durango that are needing capital campaign support, like the Powerhouse, like the Explorers. So this is our team. I just wanted to see, for you all to see that while we are small, we are mighty. We have Jamie Matthews is our contract finance manager and CPA, and Annie Grossman is actually with Project Run and is grant funded under our work with Access and through Fort Lewis College. So myself, Louise, and Libby are the 3 full-time employees of the Alliance. And these are some of our core values to the left. And just to kind of break down really quickly, our 2026 outlook, obviously we're going to be back giving you a report on the child care investment and what that is looking like this year. We do expect that this is going to impact those goals of that 260 new child care slots and that $4,000 annual wage increase. We are working on the Air Park feasibility study as well. That has been kicked off with all of our stakeholders, and the investment into that fund is brought to you by City of Durango, but also Chafa, La Plata County, Stone Age, Animas Air Park, and the Southern Ute Growth Fund. So we're excited to have those stakeholders at the table. We've already been engaging with a lot of the owners and property owners, as well as business owners in La Posta, as well as Animas Air Park. So we're going to be very excited to provide that feasibility study to you all as that closes this summer. And then as far as Project Run continues, we do have a water operations certificate, as well as an early childcare business certificate. And we anticipate on having another each one of those in 2027 as well. And then for workforce housing, again, we're going to redeploy that $1 million for the revolving loan fund, as that loan fund is made whole this month. We anticipate redeploying that over the next couple of months to projects that apply, as well as the Catalyst Fund. Round 7 will close hopefully by the end of April. We may have to push it to May if we don't have more projects apply. And then we'll have another round in the fall as well. Are there any questions?
I'll just say thank you very much. I've been a member of the Alliance, I think, for 12 years since I started my first business, and served on the board now for a few. I don't know how many, but you've continued to, grow the organization since I've been a part of it. And I hope we can find money for Project Run, because I think it's a fabulous program. I've had employees go through it, and I love everything about it. And just thank you for your continued efforts, and I'm glad I'm part of it. So thanks.
Thank you so much, Councilor Lawyer.
Yes, thank you, Sarah. I'm really glad that I've been working with you with the RXA, and hopefully we'll push forward.
Well, thank you so much. It is because of all of you supporting our work that we're able to do this as well. Whenever I don't have to take my tin cup out and go down the aisles, it helps me to be able to unlock other dollars, like the congressional direct spending that we're going to get for the Bayfield Early Child Care Center. So thank you again for being such an incredible partner. Okay, thanks.
Item 5.2 under city manager updates is the 2026 water supply drought management plan update.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. John Harris, Public Works Director. I wanted to give you an update on where we are today and what we can expect this year in terms of water supply and how we intend to work through what we anticipate will be kind of a difficult water year. The conversation tonight falls under the strategic plan goal of providing reliable infrastructure and community connectivity. Just wanted to kind of highlight where we get our water from. For those in the audience that might know, we take water from a couple of sources. You might think that the Animas River that goes right through town is the primary source, but actually the Florida River is our primary source of water. We have water rights to serve the community in a typical year from the Florida, but as I say often in my career, you can't drink a water right, so it really depends on how much actual wet water is available to us, and we expect that that supply is going to significantly decline this year. This time of year, we're seeing demand of about a little less than 2 million gallons a day, or MGD. We see that almost triple typically in the peak season, which is like July to September timeframe. When we cannot meet demand strictly from the Florida, we call them the secondary water supply source, which is the Animas. We have a really large water right out of the Animas. The challenge with that water, though, is that we have to pump it uphill, and you can just visualize that elevation difference and the amount of energy it takes to move water. In a typical year, when we have to use those pumps, we're spending about $100,000 a year just in electricity cost to run the pumps. Couple of obvious statements. Our water rights are only based on availability. I'll show you some graphics here of what the 2018 drought looked like. I hesitate to use the word drought because we're in a long-term drought, but 2018 was the last year we had a really tough water supply year. And both sources are subject to calls. It's my understanding that in 2018, there were more than 20 calls on the Florida River. And so we saw our supply drop be cut from about 6 MGD to about 2 MGD. So pretty significant loss in that year. So how do we use water in Durango? Well, most of our water is used to irrigate lawns, about 70%. That's about 105 gallons per capita per day. So every person in town that in our customer service space, in our service area, is using about 100 gallons a day just to irrigate a lawn. And that includes folks that don't have lawns. If you just divide the demand by our total customer base, that's how we come up with that. All other uses of water, typically indoor uses, make up the other 30%. So drinking water, washing clothes, showering, those kinds of uses, it's a relatively small amount, really. So maybe that's the first takeaway, is that the greatest opportunity to reduce water use is to cut back on our lawn irrigation where we can. If you're curious about what the drought looks like now or has looked like in the past, the U.S. Drought Monitor is a great website resource. On the right side of the screen, you see kind of a heat map of where we are, or as of April 2nd, where we were. The darker the color, the drier those areas are. The left side of the screen is the same map from about a year ago. You see the difference from last year to this year. And I've showing you also the 2018 heat map. Just look how similar 2018 was to where we are today and what we think the rest of the year is going to look like. Drilling in a little deeper on that map, this is the Colorado. If you go to this website, you can look at any state or region. You can zoom in on a region and then zoom into a state. That's what this depicts here. I'm not sure how the pointer works here, but I think everybody knows where La Plata County is in the southwest part of the state. You can see we are right now in the extreme drought conditions, and the northern portion of the county is in the exceptional drought conditions. I think it's shades of gray, really. There's not a lot of water, right? And you can see how that compares to last year. So you'll hear a lot about snowpack and snow water equivalency, and I wanted to talk about each of those. This comes from the USDA website. If you're curious about snowpack and SWE conditions, they have all this information. Snowpack is really a measure of the height of the depth of snow. All of these numbers are bad, right? These are the lowest snowpack on record in our part of the country, 13% of the 30-year average. So the midpoint, we're 13% of that. We're way down this year, 4 inches of snowpack versus an average about 30. Perhaps a better indicator of what the year is going to look like, though, is the snow water equivalent. That's a measure of the amount of water that's in the snow. And I would try to explain it this way. If the snowpack were to instantaneously melt, the depth of water that remains, that's the snow water equivalent. It's also the lowest on record. I think recorded history goes back to the mid 80s as far as SWE. We're at about 50% of the 30-year average, less than 3 inches when we should be at 18 inches. We have a drought management plan that was developed in 2020. I'll say that there are not a lot of teeth or quantifiable management actions in that plan. There are lots of things that encourage users to do certain things, but no definitive actions. And I'll talk in a minute about how I'm going to make a recommendation probably later this week to the city manager that we move through our stages of drought restrictions and how we revise this plan in some way. One thing that I would point out is that this 2020 plan tied our stages to reservoir levels, but also to snowpack. If you look at the column that's second to the right, technically, according to the 2020 plan, we should right now be in stage 4, since the snowpack is a lot less than 25%. I think it's too early to move, obviously, to stage 4. The current plan, these are some of the highlights that I pulled out of the stages. Stage 1, there are actually no actions required. We're doing public education, encouraging people to reduce water usage. Move to stage 2, more education. We're noticing people that we might restrict water. It's only in stage 3 when we actually start restricting water use, I should say. So like I mentioned, I think later this week or perhaps next, when the city manager is back in town, I will recommend that we move to stage 1 water restrictions. The reason for that is I think most people have not yet started irrigating their lawns. I think it would be good to get folks in the habit of these changes as they turn on their systems for the year. And then some of the changes and the revisions that I'll recommend is that we go, I've kind of listed them here. We'll go to a 3-day-a-week irrigation schedule. It's not significantly impactful to most people, in my opinion. We see in our AMI data that most people are already irrigating 3 days a week. It might change your day of the week, but the goal is to reduce the impact to the water supply system on any given day. So by spreading the irrigation out over a 6-day period, people will still be able to irrigate 3 days a week. Maybe instead of Monday, Wednesday, Friday, it might be a Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. We will, in stage 1, my recommendation will be that we eliminate the ability for people to spray off their driveways and sidewalks. For the limited number of people that might have outdoor fountains, we'll restrict that usage to nighttime use so the water's not evaporating. We'll encourage commercial reductions if we have to move into higher stages, we might think about quantifying those reductions a little more, but I think at this stage, it makes sense just to encourage our business partners to reduce their use. We at the city will reduce our fleet vehicle washing. We'll temporarily suspend our hydrant flushing program. And we have already started working with our partners at Parks and Rec. They've reduced their irrigation schedules already. That's more of a challenge, as you can imagine, for a large park that might have 15 or 20 irrigation zones. And it's just not possible to go to a 3-day-a-week schedule. So Scott and his team in those cases have already reduced the amount of time for irrigation within each of those zones. And then if we have to move to stage 2, I'll not recommend this yet, but Likely, these will be my recommendations to the city manager is that we go from 3-day-a-week irrigation to 2-day-a-week irrigation. I should say that our demand reduction target with stage 1 would be about a 20% daily reduction in demand. And stage 2 would be another 33% reduction if all of the goals are met. So potentially reducing our demand by 50% if we have to move to stage 2. Stage 2, again, no hosing off of sidewalks. Stage 2, we would also restrict personal vehicle washings at your home. You could still take your vehicle to a commercial car wash. No more outdoor fountain use. We'll work more closely with business partners to further reduce their water usage. The city will stop washing our fleet vehicles except in the cases that not doing so would endanger public health or something like that. And we will, for the first time, restrict the use of water in the water docks to indoor use only. So entities, businesses, individuals that might be using water for outdoor uses, we would restrict that use if we go to stage 2. That's all I had. I'm happy to answer questions. Hate to be a Debbie Downer after all of the great proclamations and everything we had, but it is Earth Month, right?
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. A couple of questions for you. First off, can we get the presentation sent to us, Council? We didn't get to see this in our prep packet, and I understand why. If we're already in stage 4 from the snowpack levels, is it reservoir quantities then that'll indicate whether you're going to stage 1, 2, 3 for the rest of this?
No, I think really it's going to be a dynamic decision as we move forward, right? As long as, we don't have a lot of storage, we can store a couple of days of demand in our system. As if we are not seeing demand decrease, we might move more aggressively through the stages. I can tell you in our region that most agencies anticipated what was coming and the reservoirs are pretty full right now, as is ours. So we wouldn't strictly be tied to reservoir level. If we see our reservoir level significantly drop or decline in a quick fashion, we might reconsider that.
Would appreciate frequency as we head into the summer, hearing a little bit more, even if there's not much of an update. It's nice just to know that we're paying attention and we can share that with constituents, as well as at some point talking about penalties for folks who are not obeying the rules if they're watering 5 times a week or whatever that is. Last point to be made, Marty Poole, I think it was last year, it might have been the year before, had talked about the fact that we've got about like 50 single family accounts that consume 236,000 gallons of water versus the bottom 10% of accounts consuming 18,000 gallons of account. So we've got not only a lawn versus internal use issue, but we've got a relatively small number of folks who are using an inordinate amount of water as well. So hopefully we'll see some conversations around restricting that kind of.
Yeah, and I would say that's pretty common for communities within which I've worked. And, there are lots of tools to deal with that. There could be a sustainability fee or something like that. I might point out also that we're updating our drought management plan. The timing is bad. We can't wait until that plan's developed to start enacting some of these stage restrictions now, though.
Great, thank you.
So I think you answered the question with Kip, but could you reiterate the issue of storage? Did you say we have sufficient storage or we don't have sufficient storage?
So I would say we have sufficient storage for our typical demand, right? We have water tanks in our system. We have terminal reservoir up by the treatment plant, but we don't have months of storage. We have days of storage, right? Communities like where I came from in Southern California have open water reservoirs that are thousands of acre feet and they can withstand longer periods of drought. We just can't do that here without reducing our demand. And for us, it's really the daily demand. We're limited on how much water we can produce in a day. So by spreading out the irrigation schedule, I feel like that's the best way of spreading out that demand without significantly impacting our customers this early on in the drought year.
And so you don't feel like the stages, or you don't feel like it's necessary to go into water restrictions now?
I do. I feel right now we are technically in what we call a normal condition, right? Water is flowing as it normally would this time of year, but you can look in the mountains and see that that's not going to last for very long. We got a little snow a few days ago and we were all hopeful. If you look outside today, there's not nearly as much as there was a couple of days ago. So I will recommend to Jose that we start moving through these revised stages of restriction, most likely later this week or perhaps early next week. We'll start with stage 1, obviously, and then we'll try to stay ahead of demand. If we see demand is not increasing and our supply is quickly dwindling, we'll quickly move through the other stages as we need to.
And even based on rainfall, you can make those same prediction or assumptions. If we get a lot of rain, I mean, we can take it off because there's not much ability to store. Is that so? I just wonder if we get a bunch of rain, then are we free?
Yeah, so your point is a good one. We had some rain in the last few days, and what we see is our demand decreases because people don't feel the need to irrigate their lawn when it's raining. So yeah, pray for rain, pray for snow. It's all I have for you right now.
Okay. Well, I know it's I think a unique situation, at least for me, understanding all the relationship with the snow and the limited amount of water that we have here. And so it's a great concern of mine that we are so reliant on just these two sources. So we only have these two sources. And so the issue of Lake Nighthorse, when does that come into?
So we have a storage right in Lake Nighthorse, and we pump Animas River water from the river up into Lake Nighthorse, and it's stored there. We don't have a water right per se out of Lake Nighthorse. The challenge is putting that stored water to beneficial use. And I have a meeting with the partners on Monday to move forward a project that would extend a pipe out from underneath the dam to make that possible in the future. But obviously that's a project that's likely several years away.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, John. Hey, okay, so I'm curious, okay, if we suspend the fire hydrant flushing, does that damage the ability for the fire department to use those hydrants?
No, that's an internal operation only. So we flush hydrants occasionally for water quality improvement. So if water sits on the fringes of the system and is not used, that water can become stagnant, discolored. And in those cases, we'll literally open a hydrant, and in non-drought years, we would let that water leave the hydrant onto the ground just to circulate water through that system. We'll suspend that this year right now, unless we start to get taste and odor complaints, and then strategically we'll operate those hydrants. But we already have a plan in place to recirculate that water. We've even talked about doing things like giving that water for free to contractors for dust mitigation and things like that. But no, it will not hinder our ability to fight fires.
Righty, thank you. And Jose?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just one clarification point. I know John had mentioned that the water restrictions, I think he'll be ready to make a recommendation when I get into town. I am out of town at a conference, but I do, just for the public's sake, to know that if a recommendation needs to be made, even when I'm out of town, we can still do that. So I don't want there to be a perception that it has to wait till I get back into town. If John had a recommendation today or tomorrow, we could make that happen. Also, will have John send an email out to the council specifically about Lake Nighthorse, just that kind of lets the council know exactly how much money or how much water we have of storage there. Sometimes people see that as kind of maybe a silver bullet, but there's not really a silver bullet there with the amount of storage water that we have. Obviously a discussion for a different day, but I do just want to put that out there for folks. Sometimes they see Lake Nighthorse and think that it's a savior. It's more of a redundancy solution for us. That doesn't say it's not important, but it's not something that would help us tremendously with the water supply issue. Thank you.
The next item is the Fair Share Administrative Procedures Manual Notification.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Brian Devine. I'm the city's Housing Policy and Planning Administrator. We'll keep this notification as brief as possible. But as council may recall, you all adopted ordinance 2026-008 in March, providing clarification and efficiency amendments to our Fair Share housing program. One of the provisions of that program is that the city creates an administrative procedures manual to provide more operational detail to enact the rules that you create by ordinance. Even if you do small amendments to the Fair Share program text, we do have to go back and update the manual to make sure everything matches. So this is just the required notification to council that that process is complete for the amendments that council adopted in March. Those went into effect March 25th, and a new procedures manual was published by staff the same day. So we are using the rules that you adopted in March and have fully implemented those. I'll be happy to take any questions if you have them.
The next item is a certificate of sufficiency for the No Secret Police Initiative petition. Good evening, Mayor and Council. The agenda packet does include a certificate of sufficiency for a citizens initiative. The city charter states that the city clerk shall, upon verifying the requirements of said petitions, shall submit certification to council. The No Secret Police Citizens Initiative Committee has met all of the criteria outlined in the charter, and the clerk's office has verified sufficient voter signatures to prevent this certification. The city attorney's office is planning on placing the proposed ordinance, I believe, under introduction of ordinances on the April 21st City Council meeting agenda.
That's correct. Now that she's certified all the elements required under the charter, that would be the next step to have it on the agenda for introduction next meeting, and my office will take care of that.
You need a motion or anything? Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item is committee, board, and liaison reports.
Jessica?
Yeah, on April 1st, I had our Alliance board meeting, and Sarah just did a great job of summarizing an entire year and annual report of everything, so I'm not going to get into all the details, but they did have the Animas Air Park feasibility study kickoff on March 11th. I think that's going to be a great project. Hopefully get some more information on what we can do to go forward for building some business capacity up there. Jack Turner did a code rights project presentation on property rights, on a property rights group coming together to hold the county accountable. It was very much directed at the county, no mention of the city or Ignacio or Bayfield or anything like that. It was very county driven. He is going to different organizations like the Alliance asking for support. He's going to be at the chamber, I believe, in different things. We were very much, we're not going to do like a organization support of it because it doesn't really fall in line with, you know, supporting businesses and different, our vision, mission, and values as the Alliance, but maybe bouncing some ideas off of him on how he could narrow in, because if it does specifically help businesses, the Alliance might take a stance on it. But it was definitely not focused in on that. So anyways, that were kind of the big things in addition to a lot of things that she already talked about. So there you go.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mayor. Library Advisory Board on March 25th, the board had a really good discussion led by Luke. And the results of that were acknowledging that no recommendation would be suggested by the board for a library district vote in 2026. So something we kind of expected, but good discussion and an acknowledgement of other priorities. Airport Commission, I just wanted to bring to everybody's attention, May 15th, 9 to 11 a.m. is the open house and 10 a.m. ribbon cutting for the Terminal Expansion Project 1A. Tony also shared that in 2025, in-plane passenger traffic was up 13% over 2024, continuing a winning streak for the airport quite a bit, establishing a new annual record of 282,695 total in-plane passengers. So it's just amazing how we're over 250,000 passengers through that airport. So just wanted to bring those up as updates. Thank you.
Thank you, Kip. Um, you forgot the Florida Mesa school kids. Yeah, Kip and I did the Florida Mesa school kids here for the mock city council meeting. And that was, it was really fulfilling because they got to ask us questions. And so we were put on the spot a little bit, but it was a lot of fun. And then on, when they had the Southwestern Water Seminar out at Sky Ute, I attended it, so pretty much it covered what John just talked about is the drought conditions that we've been in for like 20 years and how we're going to have to conserve water. And then it was also a good review of all the different water districts that we have and how we all have to work together. They talked about the Colorado River Compact and all kinds of exciting water policy. So I'm glad I went. And I think that's about it for me.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I had the opportunity to meet with some folks regarding the license plate readers, and they're here in the audience today. Ben Peters, Beatriz Garcia, Lisa Farrell, and some folks from ACLU, Anaya Robinson. And so they worked with me to help craft an ordinance regarding the license plate readers that I hope my colleagues will be interested in supporting. We'll work with our city attorney to hopefully get something that we can all live with, and we'll hear more about that later. But I just really wanted to thank them, since they're here in the audience, for helping me craft something much better than I could come up with on my own. So appreciate y'all's efforts.
The next item would be public comment on items under consideration for adoption tonight. If we could have the recording. Oh, hold on, Tom. It looks like everyone has signed up under item 13, with the exception of Ted, who I believe we need to move to item 13. He wanted to speak on item 5.4, which was the certificate of sufficiency.
Well, I think he should go to 13 because I didn't see a request. And did he sign up for this? Right
He
now?
did sign up. It was under approval of minutes under an incorrect section.
So it's 100% discretion of the mayor and the council. Technically, because it's not under consideration, it would come up under item 13.1. So you can choose however you want to do it. What I would just say is that to meet the requirements of the statutes and the charter, we do have to have a public hearing if certain things occur between now and then, and that public hearing will be slated for the May 5th meeting if we stay on the schedule and if it is successful at introduction. So I just don't want anyone to speak tonight and think that that would qualify for speaking at the time the council actually considers it, because it's not under consideration tonight. Certainly anybody can speak on any item that affects the community under 13.1, and we always encourage that. But it's up to you when you want to take them tonight.
Okay, they can go with everybody else at 13. That's what I've decided, because that would be proper procedure, and we have to keep this on the up and up.
Item 13.
Seeing no other folks signed up under item 7, with the mayor's consent, I'll go ahead and read the consent agenda. Item 8.1 is approval of minutes. Both sets of minutes will be corrected with some notes from Councilor Coso, emailed to the clerk's office earlier today. Item 8.1 is approval of minutes of the March 3rd, 2026 City Council regular meeting. Item 8.1.2 is approval of minutes of the March 10th, 2026 City Council regular meeting. 8.2 is final reading of ordinances. 8.2.1, ordinance 2026-0010, authorizing the city of Durango to lease a city-owned parcel at 1050 Avena del Sol to Advantage Treatment Center Incorporated for the purposes of community correction services. 8.2.2 is final reading of ordinance 2026-0011, amending in pertinent part the Durango Code of Ordinances, Chapter 15, Municipal Court, Article 1 in general, Section 15 through 17, court costs. 8.2.3 is ordinance 2026-0012, enacting in pertinent part the Durango Code of Ordinances, Chapter 15, Municipal Court, Article 1 in general, Section 15-22, default judgment fees, and Section 15-23, collection fees. 8.2.4 is ordinance 2026-0013, repealing in pertinent part the Durango Code of Ordinances, Chapter 16, noise, Section 16-9, exterior loudspeakers. 8.2.5 is ordinance 2026-001, number doesn't look right, amending in pertinent part the Durango Code of Ordinances, Chapter 24, traffic and vehicles, Article 1, application and adoption of the Model Traffic Code, Section 24-3, amendments to the Model Traffic Code. 8.3 is adoptions of resolutions by consent, with 8.3.1, a resolution authorizing an application to the Department of Local Affairs Housing Planning Grant Program. 8.3.2 is a resolution approving the implied consent agreement, an ICA for utility services to 103 Flightline Road. 8.3.3 is a resolution approving the allocation of Round 1 2026 Durango CREES grant funding. 8.3.4 is a resolution approving the allocation of Renew grant funding. 8.3.5 is a resolution to establish an easement for LPEA to provide electrical utility service to the Agile Space Industries test site facility at the Durango-La Plata County Airport. 8.3.6 is a resolution for a temporary moratorium on the enforcement of Section 13-121, vending as part of an authorized activity under a special activities permit. 8.3.7 is a resolution adopting the 2026 annual sidewalk and street vending calendar pursuant to Section 13-138 of the City of Durango Code of Ordinances. 8.4 is approval of other administrative items, with 8.4.1 and approval of a new hotel and restaurant liquor license for Grace Colorado LLC at 171 East 7th Street, Suite 1A. There are no requests for public hearings. 8.6 is introduction of ordinances. 8.6.1, an ordinance amending the master fee schedule in pertinent part the Durango Code of Ordinances, Chapter 13, licenses and business regulations, Article 9, local licensing authority, Section 13-217, rules of procedure for the purpose of establishing a fee for late license renewals. 8.6.2 is an ordinance enacting in pertinent part the Durango Code of Ordinances, Chapter 3, alcoholic beverages, Section 3-16, renewal of license and liquor safety training to require all liquor licensees to provide a liquor serving safety training course affidavit. 8.6.3 is an ordinance repealing in pertinent part the Durango Code of Ordinances, Chapter 13, licenses and business regulations, Article 9, local licensing authority, Sections 13-217 and 13-230 through 13-234, and reenacting it as Chapter 3, alcoholic beverages, Section 3-20, 3-21, 3-22, 23, 24, and 25. 8.6.4 is an ordinance authorizing the lease of property at the airport to Keith and Mary Fassbender for agricultural use. 8.6.5 is an ordinance amending the City Code of Ordinances, Chapter 27, the Land Use and Development Code regarding nonconformities and permits and procedures. 8.6.6 is an ordinance amending the City Durango Code of Ordinances, Chapter 27, the Land Use and Development Code, allowing townhouses in the residential medium zone. 8.6.7 is an ordinance amending in pertinent part the Durango Code of Ordinances, Chapter 4, Article 5, impoundment, Section 4.4-96, authority. 8.6.8 is an ordinance amending in pertinent part the Durango Code of Ordinances, Chapter 4, Animals, Article 3, Dogs and Cats, Section 4-43, removal of dog defecation from public and private properties. And there are no items under request for excused absences.
Hey, I don't think your microphone was on. I think you had to repeat. I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
We do have to do roll call voting tonight. We are working on some changes on the electronic voting. Councilor Gonzalez. Yes. Mayor Yazzie. Mayor Pro Tem Woodruff.
Yes.
Councilor Lawyer.
Yes.
And Councilor Koso.
Yes.
No items were pulled from the consent agenda. There are no public hearings under item 10, which brings us to 11 resolutions. This is a resolution authorizing a letter to the editor from the City Council to the Durango Herald submitted by Councilor Lawyer.
I'm going to make a motion to remove this from the agenda and pull this item. It was intended as an informational communication to kind of explain council's previous direction, provide clarity around jurisdictional boundaries. However, with the initiative now formally moving through the process, we will have an opportunity to, speak ask questions, give our opinions, where we stand and that sort of thing. And I think it's important we respect the process and allow for individual council consideration and public input at each step. So for that reason, I want to pull the item.
Okay, second.
Second.
Discussion. Seeing none, could we get roll call?
Mayor Yazzie.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Woodruff.
Yes.
Councilor Gonzalez.
Yes.
Councilor Koso.
Yes.
Councilor Lawyer.
Yes.
That brings us to item 12, consideration of ordinances. An ordinance authorizing the conveyance of a city-owned parcel located at 271 Twin Buttes Avenue for workforce housing purposes.
Good evening once again, Mayor and Council. I'm Brian Devine, the city's Housing Policy and Planning Administrator, here to present you with an ordinance authorizing the conveyance of a parcel at 271 Twin Buttes Avenue for workforce housing purposes. You'll be unsurprised to hear that this aligns with our strategic plan goal of innovative housing and economic development. This is a project that Council has seen fairly recently, so I'm just going to give you a little refresh. The parcel we're talking about is at 271 Twin Buttes Avenue. This is at the future east entrance to the Twin Buttes development, and it's the former location of Animas High School. You can see an outline of the parcel on the left side of your screen. Council recently approved the preliminary development plan for this project and associated rezoning on March 3rd. And the project contemplates 29 units of workforce housing, a mix of townhomes and duplexes. The site plan appears on the right side of your screen. Despite council's approval of the preliminary development plan, the city, as the owner of the parcel, also needs a separate council action to transfer the land to the selected development partner. This partnership has a long history. The Twin Buttes Development Agreement was first agreed to in 2011. That contemplated that Twin Buttes had an affordable, attainable housing obligation, but did not provide specifics as to how that obligation would be met. Various efforts were made in the intervening years before in 2022, the city and Twin Buttes developer, which is also called Twin Buttes of Durango, the city and Twin Buttes of Durango executed an MOU, a memorandum of understanding in 2022 that identified this property as a workforce housing site. The site was at that time owned or managed by Twin Buttes and was going to be dedicated to the city. In 2023, with the MOU in hand, the city selected Elevation Community Land Trust as a development partner through a competitive process. In 2024, the city and Twin Buttes enacted a final settlement of those affordable attainable housing obligations through council's adoption of a housing compliance agreement, or HCA. One of the terms of that HCA was that Twin Buttes would donate the property to the city. In 2025, council approved the conceptual development plan presented by Elevation Community Land Trust. Again, in 2026, just a few weeks ago, council approved the preliminary development plan for the development. Since that has happened and before today, the city has executed a housing partnership agreement with Elevation Community Land Trust that is essentially the final terms for our public-private partnership. So there's an awful lot of work that's gone into this project over the last several years, and especially the last couple. But there are 3 items outstanding before the project can proceed to construction. The first is land conveyance. Even with all the agreements and documents that have been approved by council, the city charter does require an authorizing ordinance in order to convey city property. So that's what we're presenting here today. There are conditions on that land conveyance found in the housing partnership agreement. Also outstanding is a final development plan. This is approval by staff of essentially final documents, engineering and architectural documents for the project to address any conditions identified in the approval of the preliminary development plan. Finally, a fair share agreement is outstanding on this project. Even though this is a city public-private partnership, it is not exempt from our fair share housing program. So there will be a fair share agreement executed on this site that finalizes the income limits and price limits on each individual home. With that in mind, the only action before council tonight is our request to approve an ordinance authorizing the conveyance of a city-owned parcel at 271 Twin Buttes Avenue for workforce housing purposes. This is the recommended motion that appears on your screen, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Move to approve the motion as read.
I'll second.
Mayor Pro Tem Woodruff,
Yes.
Counselor Lawyer,
Yes.
Mayor Yazzie,
Yes.
Counselor Koso,
Yes.
Counselor Gonzalez. That brings us to item 13, public comment on city matters not under consideration tonight. If we could have the recording, Tom.
Public comment is encouraged on city-related matters even if they are not set for consideration by the council on tonight's agenda. Please begin your comments by stating your city-related topic, your full name, and if you are a resident of the city of Durango. Make your comments directly to the council. Do not expect a response from the council or staff. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person unless modified by council. Unused time is not transferable to other speakers. Comments must be specific to city matters. Profanity, hate speech, personally derogatory remarks, or other speech that is disruptive to the meeting will be ruled out of order by the chair, and any remaining time will be forfeited by the speaker. Exceeding the time limit infringes on the rights of others and is out of order. Only a majority vote of the council can modify time limits. Please note, you must sign up prior to the mayor calling the item on the agenda. Signing up after the item is called will result in your name not being called to speak.
We do have several people signed up to speak. It looks like 20 in total. The first person signed up to speak that we moved from 8.1 would be Ted Wright.
Mayor, can I just say one thing before we get started, which may save some time? Mayor. You know, you practice law 30 years and you get into some really good habits and you try to avoid the bad habits and you try to avoid certain mistakes. And one of the things you're supposed to learn is you don't send legal opinions from your cell phone when you're waiting to take off in an airplane. And I ignored that rule this morning and I sent out a text message and I tried to remember some of the things that I discussed before I left town. And then of course that email, because one thing goes wrong, they all go wrong. That ended up getting shared with some members of the public. I can tell you, I need to review that again. Most of it is, I stand by it. Some of it, I need to look at a little bit more. Some of it, I need to talk to the city clerk with a little bit more. What I can guarantee you is that we have put the effort into getting this process right. Nothing was officially started until the clerk actually certified the petition today. That's the starting point of this process. We've done most of the background work. We have outside attorneys that are being consulted and have been retained. We will have the right answer for you. We will have it timely as we go through this process. And it is a process. It doesn't all happen tonight. The public has the right to be eager to get this done, and I think you're going to see a lot of that eagerness tonight. But part of my job is to make sure that what we do is also defendable to people who may be on the other side of this issue. And I don't want someone to come in and point out one mistake that was made, file a lawsuit, and derail the whole thing. So I will be very deliberate. I apologize for sending out, an email sitting on an airplane trying to make sure I was servicing you guys because I felt helpless because I didn't know if I was actually going to get here tonight. But we will have it right, and I do stand by 90% of what you did see today. Thank you.
All righty. Well, thank you for letting us know. Okay, so I'm curious. Since the council has a relationship with our attorney, and it's a confidential relationship, are we privy to who shared our confidential information with the general public? Because this is confidential dealing with our attorney.
Mayor,
Wait. No, let me hear answer.
I do enjoy, or you guys do enjoy, a confidential privileged relationship with information that I give you. That's part of one of the things that I should be better at not doing as a 30-year attorney, because when you send that out from your phone on an airplane, it's not always super clear that that's intended to be confidential. But yes, you do enjoy that confidential relationship. It would have been better if that hadn't been shared, but I bear some of the responsibility in that myself.
All righty.
Sorry. Now I do. Apologies. So I'll share the responsibility as well. In an effort to try and help the organizers under the ballot initiative, I was trying to make clear on what the process was. So the information that was shared was partly my responsibility as well, and I'll take full ownership of that. That being said, all I did was think that we were sharing which dates things were happening on, and I didn't think that that was confidential information.
All righty. Well, thank you. Okay, let's go with the public hearing.
Ted Wright, resident here. No Secret Police in Durango. I request an additional 3 minutes in order to compensate for the obvious comments that are coming into the subject.
We're going to go with 3 minutes for everybody. Thank you.
Can I hear your ruling, please?
Yes, my ruling is no. We're going to go with 3 minutes for each person giving public comment.
Well, there you have it, don't you? Thanks so much. Good evening. So wonderful to have your attention for 2 hours and 2 minutes and 26, 25. Good evening. This is my official sort of last act as committee chair for the No Secret Police in Durango petition drive. You obviously are not interested in hearing from me, but more from your attorney on what I should say. I feel it's my responsibility to give you an informed handoff. I have 2 minutes to do it. It's not going to happen in 2 minutes because you don't want to hear about it. This is not much of a surprise to you. You've known about it for quite some time. In December, email to you from me. By the time we were all ready, you've had that ordinance before you. And that was February 4th that it went out. March 11th that it was certified. March 13th that everybody here commented on it in the paper. You've already read it. You, every night tonight and every night for 30 days from now, you have the ability and the power to adopt this ordinance. You know, it's not a surprise. You have formed an opinion. Your deliberations are 30 days. I have a 1 minute. 30 days, every single day, you can adopt this. You have a binary choice. Adopt it, go to secret petition. No, go to special election. Now you've introduced a new one. Declare it all unconstitutional. Protect the people from their foolishness. No signer, no circulator, no one participating in this petition was paid. No one was on the payroll. Nothing was secret. The ordinance speaks for itself. At personal cost to themselves, the circulators and the signers have spoken for themselves, broken the silence barrier to start a conversation that can't be stopped. Governance cannot ignore it. The petition circulators have taken a stand against a risk and a danger in the spirit of protecting and defending the Constitution. This is my request that you do the same.
Calling all those folks that are in person first. The next person is Ben Peters.
Hi, good evening, Mayor Yowzi, members of City Council. My name is Ben Peters. I'm a resident of Durango. I'm here today as part of a group of people in our community who have collectively worked on addressing the issue of surveillance here in Durango. Councilor Shirley Gonzalez, thank you. She's told us she will introduce the Protect Our Privacy Ordinance during new business today. We're asking that each of you work to advance this ordinance, and I know it's not going to all happen today. It's going to take a little bit of time, but we want to work together with the city staff and you all to mature this ordinance so that we can produce a version that the city council can vote on. The ordinance addresses a critical issue in our community of surveillance and public safety. To quote the letter of support signed by community groups, the Flock ALPR cameras represent rapidly expanding form of surveillance technology. While often introduced under the premise of public safety, these systems collect and store large amounts of data about residents and visitors, often without their knowledge or meaningful consent. Without clear safeguards, this raises serious concerns about privacy, civil liberties, and the potential for misuse. Durango now has an opportunity to take a proactive and balanced approach. The proposed Protect Our Privacy Ordinance, developed by Durango residents in collaboration with ACLU of Colorado and the Colorado Immigrant Rights Coalition, offers common sense regulations that protect civil liberties and allow law enforcement to continue using technology within clearly defined limits. As outlined in the ordinance, a judicial warrant would be required for agencies to access ALPR data, ensuring proper legal oversight. Data retention would be limited to 72 hours, reducing the risks associated with long-term data storage. A community oversight board would be established to ensure accountability and compliance, and carefully defined exceptions for exigent circumstances would allow timely access when truly necessary. These provisions reflect a thoughtful and measured approach to public safety, one that prioritizes transparency, accountability, and community trust. As Councilor Gonzalez has stated, this ordinance is a common sense regulation that would provide important safeguards for our community while allowing our police department to continue to use the Flock safety system. This is not about eliminating tools, but about ensuring that they're used responsibly and with appropriate democratic oversight. Across the country, communities are recognizing that surveillance technologies must not be allowed to expand unchecked. Without clear policies in place, there is risk of overreach, erosion of privacy, and disproportionate impacts on marginalized communities. Since we last spoke at City Council in December, the Durango Police Department has expanded its network to 21 cameras that have collected information on over 144,000 vehicles in the last 30 days. According to the latest sharing report dated March 31st, we're sharing with 613 other law enforcement agencies. Thank you.
No clapping, okay? Because it's going to take us forever to get through this. Already, the next participant.
Drew Vermillion.
Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Drew Vermillion. I'm a business owner and I have two business leases in Durango, and I'm continuing on the Protect Our Privacy speech. So in February of this year, these shared agencies accounted for 400,000 searches that included the DPD Flock network. We have spoken with hundreds of our neighbors and community members about the Flock safety system. By far, the aspect most concerning to everyone is the unprecedented level of data sharing to outside agencies enabled by the Flock system. While Flock safety blocks searches in Colorado that explicitly mention an immigration-related term as a search justification, Agencies have responded by using vague search justifications like investigation, narcotics, crime, or even gibberish terms with random numbers and letters when conducting searches that include the entire state of Colorado. Flock has now made the reason field a selectable drop-down list. So now a collaborating agency or individual who wants to obscure an immigration-related search can simply select something like the wanted person or arrest warrant fugitive selection. Flock does not require a warrant or a case number from an officer conducting a search, and there is no way to determine whether the case numbers from the agency's input during the Flock searches are valid or just random sequences of numbers. In August 2025, the last full month that the Durango Police Department participated in the Flock Safety National Sharing Network, 3,364 agencies across the country performed 694,000 searches that included the DPD Flock network. 84% of those searches did not include a case number or an incident number. DPD left the nationwide sharing network in September 2025 following revelations that federal agencies, including U.S. Border Patrol and Homeland Security investigations, conducted searches that included the Durango Flock network. Flock Safety did not inform local police departments prior to these agencies accessing the nationwide network as a part of what they called a federal pilot program. The U.S. Postal Inspection Service was directly shared with DPD until December of last year and conducted over 20,000 searches that included Durango Police Department in 2025. That agency is part of the Federal Task Force on Immigration and has been using its resources to search for migrants across the country, and its agents have been seen participating in raids with ICE. Thank you.
Beatrice Garcia.
Good evening, Mayor, Councilor, and Durango community. My name is Beatriz Garcia, and I am speaking in behalf of Compañeros Four Corners Immigrant Resource Center. Compañeros strongly support the Protect Our Privacy Ordinance. We believe that this proposal represents thoughtful policy that protects civil liberties while still allowing the law enforcement to do their job. For immigrant communities in Southwest Colorado, civilian technologies like automated license plate readers are not an abstract tool. They have real consequences. When systems collect and store large amounts of information about where people travel, work, worship, and live, that data can become dangerous without clear safeguards. That is why the protection of this ordinance matter. Judicial warrant requirement, limits on data, retention, and community oversight help us ensure that these technologies are used responsibly. It is also important to emphasize that this ordinance does not prevent effective policing. If a flock camera detects a license plate connected to a stolen vehicle, serious crime, officers still receive a real-time alerts and can respond immediately. We have already seen how this works. Early this year, license plate readers technology helped identify a vehicle connected to a tragic triple homicide in Utah that it passed through Durango, contributing to the suspect's arrest. That is an appropriate use of this technology. What this ordinance addresses is the unrestricted access to stored data. Across Colorado, we are seeing that safeguards are necessary. In Garfield County, concerns has been raised about collaboration with ICE that might violate the state law. While we're not suggesting that this is happening in Durango, Flock systems allow data sharing across jurisdiction. That means that risk extends beyond and local governments. Oh my goodness. Okay, so also our volunteers has been intimidated by exercising their First Amendment rights with the flood cameras. This ordinance gives Durango the opportunity to serve clear guardrails before the systems expands further. We respectfully urge you to adopt this ordinance and ensure that Durango protects both public safety and fundamental freedoms. Thank you.
Gabriella Farrell.
Good evening. I'm not a resident of the city, but I was born here and I grew up attending the schools nearby. I'm sure that many of us had to read our fair share of dystopian novels while in school. Think back on these now. I want to share a few words about the Protect Our Privacy Ordinance. And for this, I want to think about these dystopian novels, such as George Orwell's 1984. For me, reading these novels, it never fully registered because I grew up in a utopic America and a utopic Durango, where I knew that my rights would never be infringed upon by my government that vows to protect me. It is, after all, their sacred responsibility under the Constitution to defend us, not from my fellow citizens, but from themselves. I'm about to graduate high school, however, and as I look around, I realize I am growing up in a country and in a community that is choosing to prioritize hard-edged surveillance over personal liberties, just as if I lived in George Orwell's London. None of this is to say that flock cameras should be banned in their entirety. As technology advances, so must we. But I know far too many of my friends, my classmates, and my fellow citizens have become inured to the growing Orwellian surveillance that pervades our town. So I am here to entreat you to question every flock camera that you see and consider the many that you do not see. To this end, I would also remind you now of the words of our founding father, Benjamin Franklin, from 1775. They who can give up essential liberty to obtain a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. Thank you. I cede my time.
Lisa Farrell.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Farrell. I live just within a stone's throw of Durango, and I am here to speak about the proposed ordinance Protect Our Privacy. Protect Our Privacy is so important, and I would like to entreat and discuss why the warrant requirement is important for this ordinance. For decades, police have resisted restraints upon their authority, often arguing that warrant requirements are practically and administratively burdensome on overworked officers, and these burdens outweigh constitutional constraints. The U.S. Supreme Court disagrees. Quote, "Such arguments of policy must give way to a constitutional command that we consider to be unequivocal." In Payton versus New York in 1980, the police argued that requiring them to obtain a warrant to enter a home if they already had probable cause was administratively burdensome. Yet the court disputed such claim. Quote, "The point of the Fourth Amendment, which often is not grasped by zealous officers, is not that it denies law enforcement the support of the usual inferences which reasonable men draw from evidence. Its protection consists in requiring that those inferences be drawn by a neutral and detached magistrate, instead of being judged by the officer engaged in the often competitive enterprise of ferreting out crime." In another more recent case, Riley versus California in 2014, the state argued that officers should not be required to obtain warrants to search arrestees' phones. The sheer volume of warrant requests would overburden the court system and undermine public safety, the state contended. Yet again, the court disagreed. Quote, "Our cases have historically recognized that the warrant requirement is an important working part of our machinery of government, not merely an inconvenience to be somehow weighed against the claims of efficiency." Police also often argue that the time it takes to obtain a warrant can undermine their ability to secure evidence or arrest a suspect. Yet, in Missouri versus McNeely in 2013, the court noted that the technological advances have greatly reduced the time it takes to obtain a warrant. Technological developments that enable police officers to secure warrants more quickly and do so without undermining the neutral magistrate judge's essential role as a check on police discretion are relevant to an assessment of exigency. Under Colorado law, our 6th Judicial District accepts warrant requests electronically. Also, many warrants are standard form warrant applications. Efficiency is not shorthand for privacy. Please vote in favor of this ordinance to protect our privacy. Thank you.
Chris Cottrell. Chris Cottrell. Okay. Robert Farrell.
Hi, I'm Robert Farrell. I live just outside the city in the county. I want to speak in favor of the ordinance we've been hearing about for privacy. I think it does a very good job of balancing the use of technology and making it readily available for the police, and also of protecting my right to be left alone. So I want to just mention, when I was 11, I was mugged in Moscow in the Soviet Union of all places. And what happened for me as soon as I was able to cry for help, it was kind of the evening, nobody was around. 6 men came out of like nowhere, apprehended the perpetrator, and then we had to wait 45 minutes for the cops to show up because they didn't have any police cars. But I bring that up because in this ordinance, I think that the police are given great leeway to do their job and act quickly, especially as technology moves forward. I mean, in my case, I retrieved a stupid Timex watch and I got a little, but frequently the issues are life and death. And I think this ordinance does not in any way hinder emergency action. In addition, when I was living in the Soviet Union, we had a guy who took care of us, took us around. He was a KGB informant. And at one point he took us out and he told us that he and a friend would go out in the woods, place he wasn't allowed to take us, and get drunk and cry because he had no privacy. He was watched everywhere he went. And that was the case. They didn't have cameras. They had people watching everywhere. You go to the store, they watch. You come out of the apartment, they watch. You go to a museum, they watch, and they report on you. The Soviet Union is a police state. We don't live in a police state. Justice Brandeis years ago said one of the great things about America is that we have the right to be left alone. I think this ordinance does a very good job of protecting that right. That, I'm a law-abiding citizen. I trust my local police officers. I don't really trust what happens in DC all the time. These flock cameras are getting more and more sophisticated. At some imaginary point in the future, if somebody in DC says, we just want to know who isn't wearing a mask in Durango, we just kind of need to know that. Or maybe they just say, we just want to know who was at that Turning Point USA rally up on Fort Lewis a while ago. If they need that for law enforcement purposes, 100%. But I want to see, I'd like to see a written record of it. I'd like to see a justification for it. And otherwise, I would like to just enjoy my right to be left alone. So, thank you.
Dalton Breeding.
My name is Dalton Breeding. I'm a resident of Durango. Continuing the combined statement in support of the privacy ordinance. I'm a data analyst by trade. And so I just want to put into context a little bit what some of the numbers we're throwing out actually look like. In February of this year, we saw 400,000 searches hit the Durango PD database, which represents about 20 searches for every resident of Durango. Just to kind of ground us in the volume of searches we're talking about here. In October 2025, a records request revealed that DPD was directly sharing access with its data to 60 agencies across the country with ICE 287G agreements. They then revoked that access in December. But despite that attempt, just in February, I was able to find 4 different agencies who have since signed a 287G agreement who accessed Durango PD data. Besides official collaboration with the federal law enforcement, there's also a high degree of informal collaboration that occurs across the country between local law enforcement agencies and ICE. For example, the Houston Police Department does not have a 287G agreement, but has been checking immigration status during traffic stops and detaining individuals based on immigration status, also transferring and holding people in custody for ICE who have not been accused of any crime. More locally, the Garfield County, Colorado Sheriff's Department, in violation of Colorado law, has been arresting, detaining, and transporting individuals on the basis of civil immigration detainer requests and sharing data with Homeland Security investigations with a task force called SPEAR that has operated without a signed memorandum of understanding for years. Both the Houston PD and the Garfield County Sheriff's Office still have a full access to Durango's cameras as of March 31st of this year. It's not reasonable to expect Durango PD, we're a small town. It's not reasonable to expect them to individually vet each department and also maintain, the list of 287G agencies. We have 613 law enforcement agencies that we're currently sharing with. There are over, 3,000 agencies who would have access if we were to rejoin the nationwide sharing network. All told, hundreds of thousands of flock searches conducted that included the DPD network last year were likely for immigration purposes, as I've demonstrated a few different avenues where that occurred. This represents a significant breach in public trust, especially since our police department has made public statements that imply that this was never the case. This underscores why the judicial warrant requirement for agencies outside Durango is crucial. Every police department in the country is familiar with and proficient in obtaining warrants for investigative purposes. This is a standard that can be met by any agency and a requirement that can be understood and followed from the outset of the policy being implemented. Thank you.
Gail Harris. Harrison Snook.
Good evening, Mayor Yazzie and Council. My name is Harrison Snook. I'm a resident of the city of Durango, Colorado, and I'll be continuing our shared statement. If we want to have a clear idea on if the flock cameras were used to make an immigration-related arrest in our community, we should look for the license plate numbers of people and families taken by ICE within the audit logs of the DPD flock system. DPD has a record of every plate number that has been searched that included the Durango flock camera network. Thus far in the records request, the police department has declined to disclose individuals if their personal license plates were searched by another agency. Going as far as to state we only audit our own system for specific license plates, so we have no data if another agency searched for your license plate. This statement is not true. DPD does in fact have the ability to search the audit records for license plate search made by another agency. Our community deserves to know whether our data has been used to make immigration-related arrests and if our police department values trust and transparency. They must work with those affected to determine if that has indeed been the case here. In response to the release of the Protect Our Privacy Ordinance, the police department released a statement, and we wanted to respond to some of what they wrote. While it is true that the flock safety does not presently implement facial recognition, the free-form search features allows departments subscribed to the service to search general descriptions of people captured by the cameras. An additional search feature Flock calls Nova can synthesize information from a variety of sources, including public records and information obtained from data brokers to build searchable profiles of individuals. DPD told us in December they do not subscribe to the Flock Freeform, or the Flock Nova search features. The 613 agencies with access to the DPD network, however, can use these features to search our data if the internal policies allow them to do so. Additionally, Flock Safety has patented methods that include facial recognition, so it is fair to assume that this feature is in development and will be made available to the subscribers in the near future. The DPD statement also cites several cases where the department made an arrest using ALPR data, including a homicide case, a kidnapping case, and a hit and run case in the past year. The way these cases are referred in the DPD statements implies that the ordinance would prevent the police department from using ALPRs in this manner. This is not true. In each of these publicized instances, the manner in which DPD used the cameras is allowable under the provisions of this ordinance, which include provisions for exigency and hot listing, excuse me. None of these cases require historical data access beyond 72 hours, or for another agency to have warrantless access to our cameras. Thank you.
Isaac NB.
Hello, City Council. My name is Isaac Nagelbryce, and I'm a resident of Durango. Colorado statewide and national hot lists provide ample avenues for cross-jurisdictional collaboration, and investigators that specifically interested in Durango data can use the warrant process and/or the request for data retention outlined in the ordinance. The DPD statement additionally refers to an internal citizen compliant review panel as an example of why an independent civilian oversight and accountability committee is not required. The panel they are referring to operates under internal affairs within the department and exists to renew and make recommendations on the actions of individual officers and does not make any of their reporting public. It is unclear that this panel would have the authority to request and obtain the information necessary to assess the department's compliance with the ordinance, and if DPD approves and controls the membership of the panel, by definition, it would not be independent and the membership would be discouraged from producing a finding to council that contradicts a position of the department. While we acknowledge the provisions of the Civilian Oversight Committee require additional work, it is unclear how the mere existence of an independent civilian committee or compliance with reporting requirements would constitute, quote, hindering lawful investigations or delaying tools that help victims, end quote. Since the committee would not only be able to review the department's use of the system on a semi-annual basis. An effective oversight body would need to be independent from that department, involve a broad spectrum of community stakeholders, have access to records, personnel, and facilities required to ensure compliance with ordinance provisions. This should make the findings and recommendations to both Durango PD and City Council and produce public-facing reports. There are several models which could accomplish this, and we look forward to working with the City Council and staff to build a model that will work for Durango. The main criticism from the police department in its statement seems to be that the ordinance could slow down the use of ALPR surveillance technology by DPD. We acknowledge that this is probably true, but creating a process that protects our community from overreach and erosion of our rights is well worth that trade-off. To quote Anaya Robinson from the ACLU of Colorado, who partnered with us to develop this ordinance, technology has its place in the world. Regulating surveillance technology used by law enforcement isn't about being for or against policing or even for or against technology. It is about deciding what kind of society we want to live in and what safeguards we want to put in place before powerful tools reshape the society without us. Thank you.
Connie Durand.
Hello, thank you very much. I'm Connie Durand, and I do not live in the city of Durango, but in La Plata County. So my face in my car is photographed just as much as people who live in the city. I feel that the Flock cameras have gone far too far in surveillance of every single citizen. Now, I sympathize with the police who are trying to become more efficient. My father was an FBI agent, and I assure you that police departments and our law enforcement people have been solving crimes for over 100 years very efficiently without having to surveil every single citizen in our country. I highly commend the young woman who brought to mind the novel 1984. If you have not read it recently, I suggest you do, especially before you vote for this ordinance. If you do, you will be astonished to see how much of our privacy has already been eroded, and this is one more serious step. We do not lose our rights with one big, beautiful proclamation. We lose our rights one little, oh, that's not so important step at a time. And FLoC is a big step, and it needs to be looked at with great circumspection. Thank you.
Colin Roy Airy.
Hello, thank you, counselors, mayor, and attorney. My name is Colin Roy Erie. I'm a professional data and analytics engineer with Google's leading business intelligence and AI partner. And I had a chance to look at some of this FLoC data recently, which was interesting. I was shocked by the magnitude of searches overall. Although I helped provide some of the other numbers and analysis, really the fact that we have, more than 400,000 searches a month, most from outside the city, it's going to be millions a year soon if we continue. I also wanted to mention that I found that the DPD did do a great job of always having a reason and a case number with all of their cases. Given the rigor that they're already doing in their use of this system, I don't think that the new restrictions would prevent them from using it in a useful manner, but I really do want to restrict the open sharing of information because it's a huge security risk. Any system that's open to hundreds of agencies, thousands of people, it's not secure. We don't know who's going to see our data. We don't know who's going to see what's on our phones. We don't know who's going to profile all of our activities and movements. So it's a bigger problem. And it's not just our police. I'm talking about bad actors, if they're accessing it through another system, or if they're state actors, as we recently saw in the war with Iran. The traffic cameras throughout Iran were hacked and used to profile the leaders and individuals and their movements so that they could be assassinated. And I would hate to see the cameras used for a purpose that really undermines and destroys our security here in Durango. I used to be in favor of ALPRs, but to be honest, even as someone who's not afraid of technology, I use AIs all the time. I'm scared of what AIs could do with this much information. And I have no reason to suspect they're not going to be used in that fashion. Thank you.
Joe Peliquin.
Hi, I'm Joe Peliquin. I'm not a Durango resident, but I work here every day. I work as a case manager supporting folks on the spectrum of homelessness. And I don't have much more to say beyond what's been said. I just support this ordinance. I support the No Mask Initiative as well. Most of what I could say personally is I worked for 7 years in the occupied West Bank doing grassroots bipartisan peace work. And I've seen what happens when things go really far down on the spectrum that we're talking about. So I'd rather stop it earlier. Thank you.
Susan Ulrey.
Good evening, Susan Ullery. I live in the city. First item for me is the Protect Our Privacy Ordinance. I don't want to repeat what everyone else has been saying, but the thing that has really troubled me about this is the amalgamation of data. We don't know who FLoC does business with specifically. We don't know what they're doing with our data, and their contract management is, let's just say that the ACLU people that I have spoken with and listened to present on this topic have absolutely no confidence in our data being protected by FLOC at all. And what's happening today is unprecedented in our society or any other. We have AI, as the gentleman who recently spoke suggested, that there's no reason to believe that AI isn't going to be able to make use of this data. We are the product being sold by FLOC and the other companies that are amalgamating our data. Our habits, driving, travel, our facial recognition. I presume our credit card data is also part of this. Everything we do with the handy, convenient devices that we now have at our fingertips, my phone's on me, will be used to break down our privacy. And I think we are right in asking you, our local council, to help protect us from this, because there's really not much else you can do other than bury your head in the sand and go completely retro. And I don't see that happening with us. We wouldn't be able to do business. So I think the ordinance sets reasonable guardrails that will protect our privacy and still allow the police to make use of this tool to their advantage as needed. And the exigency clauses are well phrased and will allow them to move rapidly when they need to. The other topic that and remember, we don't hear about it so much anymore. China with their tracking devices and the Uyghurs and what they did to them. You remember that in the news? They basically crushed an entire society. So the other thing that I'd like to ask you to support is the No Secret Police Initiative. Personally, I don't feel safe knowing that we have the potential of operatives conducting police business or other agency type business in the city while masked. I want to know who's contacting me. And I think we have the right to know. And I recognize that this is largely a federal problem, but you can do something to take a stand and make a point. And I'd ask you to do that. Thank you.
Moving to online speakers, next up would be Adrian, last name starting with S.
Adrian, you have been unmuted in Teams. If you would please speak now.
Yes, my name is Adrian Evans, and I am a resident of Durango. In regards to the automated license plate readers, we all recognize that this technology can be a powerful tool when it's used correctly, especially in serious cases like missing persons or violent crimes. No one here is trying to take that away. But with that power comes responsibility, and right now the concern from the community isn't about the existence of the tool. It's about how it's being used, how broadly the data is being shared, and whether the proper constitutional safeguards are actually in place. We have an opportunity to get this right, to support law enforcement while also protecting the rights and the trust of the people that they serve. Those two things are not in conflict, they depend upon each other. We need transparent, audible systems in place to ensure that this technology is being used constitutionally and within clearly defined limits. Without the ability to verify how the data is accessed, shared, and retained, there is no real accountability, only trust without oversight. Transparency isn't a barrier to public safety. It's what ensures that safety measures don't get crossed into unchecked surveillance or invasion of privacy. Clear guardrails, auditability, and public visibility are what allow this tool to operate responsibly while maintaining the rights and the trust of the community. This proposed ordinance doesn't remove tools. It simply ensures they are used lawfully, transparently, and with the consent of the people you represent. I hope that this proposed ordinance finds the right balance between effective public safety and the constitutional protections that define and protect this community. Thank you. I concede my time.
Also online, Emily Riggs.
Hi there, my name is Emily Riggs, and I'm grateful to speak in front of Durango City Council and community members. I'm a Durango City resident, and I'm speaking tonight in solidarity with the proposed Protect Our Privacy Ordinance to regulate ALPR cameras. I want to say thank you to the community members and also ACLU staff, as well as Councilor Gonzalez, who have put in hundreds of hours researching this issue and the concerns these surveillance tools have and could pose to our privacy and civil liberties. Thank you to all who have spent time discussing the topic with cross-sector folks in our area. After reading DPD's latest press release on the issue, I want to remark on why my support of this ordinance remains unwavering. Though the intention of these tools is public safety, we're seeing in real time at the national level how stated intentions of an institution, such as public safety, i.e. protect vulnerable US citizens from dangerous brown-skinned criminals, and impact can be extremely dissonant. When an institution such as the executive branch of government or law enforcement goes unchecked by specialists coming from outside of that institutional culture, bias, and background, the opportunity for this dissonance grows. The DPD referenced a citizen complaint review panel that meets yearly to hold law enforcement accountable. I wonder who sits on this panel, and I wonder if it's open to the public, using this one-time-a-year panel as a reason to dismiss the value of the Civilian Oversight and Accountability Committee proposed in the ordinance strikes me as concerning. I'm curious if anyone in this meeting tonight has ever lived in a city that has as much influence and power and funding as the DPD department. With as much funding and power as DPD does have in our community, this type of power needs to be checked by citizens from varying professional, social, and ethnic spheres for the sake of justice in our community, and to work towards a public safety that is consistent and attainable for all community members alike. In addition, I'll read another paragraph of the public comments drafted by multiple community members, and want to emphasize that this is about deciding what kind of society we want to live in and what safeguards we want to put in place before powerful tools reshape the society without us. Over the past decade, surveillance technology has advanced rapidly. Tools like automated license plate readers, facial recognition systems, and real-time data platforms can track movement, identify individuals, and map relationships at a scale that was unimaginable just a generation ago. These tools are often adopted with the promise of efficiency and public safety, and in some cases, they do offer benefits. But the question isn't whether these tools can be useful. It's what happens when they're used without clear rules, limits, and accountability. Thank you.
Also online, Deb Nielsen.
Deb, you are able to unmute at this time. If you need, you can use Control-Shift-M on a Windows computer to unmute your mic, or Control or Command Shift-M on a Mac. Again, this is for Deb Nielsen. You are unmuted at this time.
We'll check back with Deb Nielsen. Next would be Katia Spiker.
Hi there, can you hear me?
We can.
Great, thanks. Good evening, counselors. My name is Katia Speaker. I'm a Durango resident. I'm going to continue reading the collective comment on the Protect Our Privacy Ordinance. History gives us a clear answer. Surveillance powers, when left unchecked, are often used disproportionately, impacting certain communities more than others, expanding beyond their original purpose and operating with little public awareness. What begins as a narrowly defined tool can quickly become part of a broader system of unconscious monitoring. One of the core challenges is that surveillance technologies don't just collect data about people suspected of wrongdoing. They collect data about everyone. Every car that passes a camera, every face captured in a public space, every movement recorded over time, this creates a detailed picture of what people's lives, associations, and habits, regardless of whether they've done anything wrong, regardless of whether they are constitutionally protected. Without regulation, there are few limits on how long that data is kept, who it is shared with, or how it is used in the future. Data collected for one purpose today can be repurposed tomorrow for entirely different kinds of investigations, or even shared across jurisdictions and agencies without meaningful oversight or constitutional regard, and sometimes in violation of Colorado law when it comes to immigration enforcement and legally protected healthcare access. These systems are not infallible. Errors in data, misidentifications, and flawed assumptions can have real consequences, especially when they feed into decisions about stops, arrests, or investigations. When the underlying systems are opaque, it becomes incredibly difficult for individuals to challenge those errors. That's why regulation matters. Effective regulation does not mean banning technology outright. It means putting democratic guardrails in place before deployment, not after harm has already occurred. It means requiring clear policies on when and how these tools can be used, strict limits on data retention, transparency so the public understands what is happening in their communities, and legislative approval so that the people we vote for make decisions that impact all of our lives are the ones actually making those decisions. It also means independent oversight, ensuring that someone outside of the agency using the technology can audit its use, identify misuse, and enforce consequences. And it means centering civil liberties so that constitutional protections don't erode simply because technology has made surveillance easier. Policy should come before procurement, but too often agencies acquire powerful tools first and figure out the rules later. Thank you.
And we can return to Deb Nielsen if she's able to unmute.
Deb, we see that your hand is raised and we have unmuted you at this time. Deb, are you able to unmute now?
Okay, how about now?
We have you. You can start.
Yay! Yay, thank you. Hi, City Council and Mayor. I'm Deb Nielsen. I am a resident of Durango, the city of Durango. And I want to comment about the ordinance for privacy. So policy should come before procurement, but too often agencies acquire powerful tools first and figure out the rules later. That reverses the order we should expect in a democracy. Communities deserve a say in whether and how these tools are used before they are put into operation. And while many of these tools are already being used in Durango and across Colorado and the nation, that doesn't mean it's too late. Regulation is about trust. Public safety depends not just on the effectiveness of law enforcement, but on the legitimacy of its actions. When surveillance technologies are used without transparency or accountability, that trust erodes. When clear rules are in place and consistently followed, trust can be strengthened. We are at a point where the capabilities of surveillance technology are outpacing the policies that govern them. That gap will not close on its own. It requires deliberate action. Regulating surveillance technology is not about limiting safety. It is about ensuring that safety and freedom coexist. It is about making sure that as our tools become more powerful, our safeguards become stronger as well. Because once systems of mass surveillance are built, they are incredibly difficult to roll back. The time to set boundaries is now while their use becomes normalized and proliferates around jurisdictions before the absence of regulation becomes the default. We know this ordinance is not complete, We're scheduled to meet with Mayor Yazzie and the city attorney this week. There's an outstanding question of the exact mechanism to structure the community oversight under. And we agree with several of you that it is a crucial element we have to get right if this ordinance is going to work the way is intended. But as volunteers working outside of city government, we've developed the ordinance just about as far as we can. We're asking that this item be added to the city agenda so that city staff can work with our volunteers to iron out some of the remaining details of the ordinance language. We would also support a public hearing on this ordinance to enable further discussion in a formalized setting. This also cannot take place without an agenda item. We believe that the decisions of this magnitude must be made through an open and democratic process, and we urge the Durango City Council to support the ordinance, ensure strong transparency and accountability measures, and uphold community oversight in decisions about surveillance technologies. Thank you.
And that is the last of the folks that have signed up to speak under this item.
Okay, thank you, Faye. I would like to call a little timeout so we can just stand up and stretch for a little bit because we've been sitting here for what, an hour? Okay. Okay, so we're all ready to begin again.
So now we'll be starting on item 14. 14.1 is a
Okay.
resolution.
Excuse me, we're gonna make an adjustment, and I'm gonna let Shirley go first.
Just, okay. I think, sure I get that right. So the idea is that under new business, we will, I would request a proposed ordinance that aims to regulate automated license plate reader technology in Durango. That would be under new business.
Okay, thank you.
So that just gets put on new business for next week.
That's
That'll
it.
come back written on new business next time. And from there, if it has support, it will go to introduction at the May 5th meeting.
Yeah, are we doing new business?
And then, yeah, because all these people are waiting for that.
Oh, okay. I have something kind of adjacent to that. Would it be okay if I?
What?
I have something adjacent to that. Would it be okay if I did this one as well?
Sure.
Ooh, sorry, Mayor. Oof. All right. Just kidding. A resolution directing the city manager to provide a monthly update at regular city council meetings on publicly releasable information on the utilization of the flock system, which should include but not be limited to the utilization of the system by officers, jurisdiction requesting access, and access that was granted to other jurisdictions.
And that's gonna be on the new agenda.
Correct.
All righty, so we're up to 14.1.
Okay, 14.1 is a resolution to improve the city council agenda packet functionality submitted by Councilor Costo.
Just to share with any audience members, that's all we're doing on Flock. So it's coming on to the next agenda. So if you want to stay for extracurricular points, you are welcome to. So thank you very much. Council 14.1, I'm looking to propose a resolution, a slight modification here, a resolution for staff to conduct an RFP for a new agenda generating system. My key points here are that the current system is cumbersome. It is difficult to download, and re-downloading the agenda when changes occur. Making comments that are directly accessible from the agenda and the packet is difficult. Switching between documents is tedious and becomes outdated when using a page number for reference for future conversations. And then there's an adjustment to the agenda packet. The packets can extend to 200 to 300 pages. Scrolling alone to move back and forth through the document is pretty time consuming, let alone the reading that's required. The size of these packets is understandable given our work and staff needs, but I think we can find a better tool that can help move through the packet easier and make our jobs a little easier. Lastly, highlighting minor content changes, edits to the minutes, budget line item questions, spelling mistakes, and sending those for follow-up to city staff's not easy as well. So I don't know if any other counselors are having concerns, but my goal is to try and have staff conduct an RFP for a new mechanism.
Just a couple comments. Like, I'm always open to improving punctuality. I'm clearly a little tired. If there's areas that aren't working well. I'm just curious, like an RFP process, the cost, the staff time, the process for the program. When I don't have, you get the link, and when you open the link, it opens a PDF, and then the PDF is all bookmarked on the side, so like you can go back to the.
You are correct.
Okay, and then you can click on it, and it pulls up to the location that you're at. What documents are you going in between?
When you're functionally trying to pull items out, so 11.1 is whatever ordinance that we're talking about, and trying to make notes on those pieces, and you're pulling it from the agenda, yet I have to open up another document to cut and paste, to leave my comments, to write my comments in there. There's no way to really go through the agenda as it currently is and have comments within that agenda piece as well. So I'm running multiple pages to get the functionality out of it that I'm looking for. And
I don't have that need. Like, but one counselor, of course, if everyone wants to support it, I'm obviously have no say. I'm one counselor. I don't have a problem with the process, and I feel like this would be super cumbersome for staff, long and expensive. And I don't personally see the need. I function back and forth real easy. I can tab a Word document with my notes and like go back and forth real quick. I don't have the functionality issue.
Can Adobe Pro or a different version of Adobe that allow for us to edit a document? Is there a different form of Adobe that we could use?
we don't want to edit the agenda packet, but
But
you
not
could
live. but like
comment on
your
it.
own downloaded version.
Yeah, so what in an Adobe Pro, you could have it and then you could comment in the section there, like on that page.
Right.
I wouldn't find that easier though, personally.
My
But
two-bit research is that there's better mechanisms out there for this. And I think Councilor Gonzalez is going to weigh in hopefully and talk about the fact that she's got better experience as well.
Okay, we're just going to introduce these items, but we can't go into.
It's appropriate to share.
So what would happen is if he gets 3 votes tonight, it would come back as a resolution to seek or direct the administration to seek an RFP for a new agenda generating program.
So this is the appropriate time to weigh in. Or I would say yes, and then we try, or,
So
We-
this
well-
purpose, you give a rationale, if it makes any sense to you, you move it forward because you can always kill it at the next meeting.
okay.
If it doesn't make any sense to you or you're completely opposed to it, you can kill it now.
Okay, no, I have seen some much better ones. But if we're gonna go ahead and if there's support to upgrade the whole system, we could update these devices as well. So I hope that that's included. It's usually similar because it all comes from the city clerk. So that the updating software and the system here would all come as one package. Well,
Already at this point, we don't have a second, so the motion fails.
okay, yes, I say yes.
Are we voting? Was there a motion in a second? Can we get some,
There was a
can we get a point of order, please?
So this is a new business item. Councilor Coso has said that he would like to come back with a resolution for an RFP for a new agenda management system.
Did you make a motion, Councilor Coso?
He did. That's what he
Okay.
did. And then he gave his rationale.
Okay.
So there needs to be
So,
second.
okay,
I
but
perhaps jumped ahead.
yeah, so there was no second yet. Okay.
Okay, discussion we had. Could we get a roll call?
Counselor Gonzalez,
Yes.
Counselor Coso,
Yes.
Mayor Yazzie,
No.
Counselor Lawyer,
no,
Mayor Pro Tem Woodruff.
No. Sorry.
Brings us to item 14.2, a resolution directing the city manager to request a staff presentation on a revised trash and recycling overfill phase submitted by Counselor Coso.
And
this, I think there's a note there that available 2026. Does that mean that's when the presentation will be made? Or?
Sorry, I missed, there's something already coming before council in May on this?
It could be available in May.
Okay, if this passes, that's the likely timeline. Apologies.
I just wanted to clarify what
understand
the
that. So
comment was.
This, council, this is aimed toward, I'm sorry. So make a motion as read. I need a second.
Okay, I heard a motion, a second discussion.
So council, the current fee of $12.81 is not a deterrent for abuse. The key statistic here is 41% of trash incidents reported to city code last year were repeat offenses, suggesting there's some residents' dismissal of the negative consequences of overfilled trash cans. Obviously, this leans into potential bear issues and some of the improvements we're trying to make in regards to human-bear interactions. Any adjustment of the trash fees should focus on ways that improves the ability for trash and recycling employees to do their work, improves trash pickup services for residents, and helps solve our increasing issues around bear-human conflicts. Last year, there were 290 bear and trash reports through code enforcement, highlighting an urgent need for improved bear conflict prevention efforts. We had the lockdown at the high school last year due to a bear on site, and now we have another notably warm winter this year, seeing bears emerge earlier than usual. This would be one more tool in the arsenal to try and limit the human-bear interactions.
All righty, so I'm still an advocate of people policing their garbage and putting it out the day of collection. And I think that would help with the bear problem. We've already addressed part of the bear issue with the electric mats, and also the fact that this is adding another fee to our residents. I'm really opposed to that.
I kind of go back and forth on this one. Since this got brought up a month ago or whenever it was, as on trash days, because the whole Crestview neighborhood from when I lived downtown all the way up to my up whether I'm riding my bike, there's been 3 of them, and I've counted, and there's not that many. And I'm nervous too that I have some concern about equity impacts, and I don't want to disproportionately affect lower income residents who may be struggling with service costs. And when I'm looking around, there's like more overfilled trash cans in some of those areas, unfortunately. And so I want to be cognizant of that. We've gotten emails about how the new sewer rates are going. I'm just nervous about these fees and fees and fees. I agree that the fee that we have doesn't do much, but I just get nervous, like, are we turning into an HOA here, Durango? And is that what we want with all these fees and don't do this and don't park here and I don't know. I just want to be cognizant of everything we're doing. So I'm kind of torn a little bit. What would we do to make it impactful? Like $100, and then we're like, people can't actually pay it, like physically can't pay it. And what are we paying the trash fee or paying the mortgage now? And like, it's getting, like, it's just getting a little crazy.
Counselor, I never took it to that extreme, and this is a request that staff come back with a recommendation on what might be a disincentive. So,
yeah.
All righty, see no other hands?
No,
Oh,
Yeah.
I know I'm not raising it. No, and
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
I didn't either. I just was
We're
talking.
going off piste right now, Mayor. Sorry. I kind of agree with Councilor Lawyer that, I mean, we raised everything from community development fees, water and sewer rates, property taxes, everything else. And I've become genuinely concerned. I mean, I think if the staff would if there was a way to de-incentivize this and they thought that there was a numerical amount, I think that they would have done it by now. So I'm sorry, but we can't just hammer people up one way and down the other, and I'm afraid it's too much to ask for people. It's too punitive for people that we're going to push people out by just tacking on fees every which way that we can. That's a genuine fear for me as a 5-job household.
okay, let's let Shirley go first, and then you, Sarah, because you.
Right. I think just for clarity, all we're asking for is a presentation, right? We're not approving a fee increase. So I always appreciate a presentation. I learn a lot when we have presentations from staff. So I'm definitely willing to hear a presentation. That doesn't mean I approve a fee increase, but just that I'm open to a presentation.
Council, I just respond that this is for behavior that is contributing to additional problems. This is an attraction for bare issues. If we're concerned about cost of living fees, we've increased a bunch of cost of living fees. This is something that's specific to a group that is abusing the privilege or causing additional problems through their inaction. So again, I'm not sure I understand how this is punitive nor inequitable, because it seems to be addressing folks who are abusing or are creating a problem. So I'm just not there that we've increased the sewer and water and other fees that are cost of living fees, but by increasing this fee, we've really gone over the top.
I see no other hands. Could we get a roll call?
Mayor Pro Tem Woodruff,
No.
Mayor Yazzie,
No.
Councilor Gonzalez.
Yes.
Councilor Lawyer,
No.
Councilor Kosa.
Yes.
Brings us to item 14.3, a resolution directing the city manager to request a staff presentation on bear-proof trash can maintenance program submitted by Councilor Koso.
Council, I'm going to try and make a combo here between 14.3 and 14.4. After consultation with the city attorney, I think the best way to proceed would be to propose a focus group be initiated to provide recommendations to reduce bear incidents and issues within the city. That representation would include city trash and recycling services, code enforcement, city manager, city council, nonprofits like Bear Smart, and governmental organizations like Colorado Parks and Wildlife. So I'd like to modify this to talk about the fact that a focus group could then come back to council with recommendations that the city might undertake to improve the human-bear interaction.
Kip, I'm going to rule that out of order. You can put it on new business for next week and withdraw your, the resolution here. For 14.3.
I guess I would ask if it's too far away from the proposed new business items.
So under Robert's rules, if she's ruled it out of order as the chair, you have to appeal to a majority of the board to over that.
Well, my record's going so well tonight. Maybe I'll just go ahead and refer this to new business in the next one.
I mean, we had both of these on the agenda.
But he's changing it.
No, I know, but he's changing it a little. I mean, it's the same thing. And I think I'm fully ready as one counselor. I've read these I heard about them a month ago. I've read them. I don't think we need to push it off for another 2 weeks to talk about it again, personally. I think I could formulate my thoughts as one counselor. So that's one. I don't know what should I say, sir?
Well, so when the chair rules, the chair rules.
Yes.
If he is going to appeal to the rest of the board, I will tell you that if it gets to a vote, I can then advise you on his
appeal. Okay.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and request an appeal to the board to overrule the mayor's ruling.
And that does not get debated. You just go straight into a vote.
Okay.
Can we just get a clarification on what it is that you're asking for that's different from what's on the agenda?
Proposing that it's to solve 14.3 and 14.4 that we would do a focus group with those representation that would then come back to city council and the city and recommend improvements to bear human interactions.
Overruling that. Combine
Understood.
Combine those for another new item for the next agenda, because that's really confusing the issue here.
I'm going to take these off the agenda and bring them back
Okay, there you go.
next time.
Both of them?
Both of them, 14.3 and 14.4.
Do we need to deal with the appeal, Mark? Since we put the
Doesn't
appeal
sound
on
like,
record.
sounds like he decided to pull them.
Okay. Which would bring us to 14.5, a resolution directing the city manager to request a staff presentation on the parking situation at the new City Hall PD campus, including the number of spaces required and current number of spaces planned, submitted by Mayor Yazzie. And again, this presentation could be available in May.
Alrighty, so moved as read. Discussion.
I'll just say that I think, as I said in the presentation that the architect, or I think the architect did, the parking is one of the biggest issues for what we're talking about right now, highest and best use of this property. The other property, I think it's important that we ensure we're staying within budget on the project, providing adequate parking, and thinking about highest and best use of the site overall. So I think additional clarity on what's planned versus what's needed is helpful on this highly visible project.
Okay, I accept that friendly amendment.
Oh, no, there was no amendment. I was just saying discussion.
Oh, okay.
Nothing.
She moved
Alright,
second
any
and commented all at once.
Yeah, I seconded it.
Okay, discussion?
No.
No discussion? Okay, could we get roll call?
Counselor Lawyer,
Yes.
Counselor Gonzalez,
Yes.
Counselor Koso,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Woodruff,
Yes.
and Mayor Yazzie.
Yes.
14.6 is a resolution calling for council-led community engagement on the PD City Hall project.
I'm going to remove this from consideration.
Okay, so moved. Are there any other new items for the agenda? Hearing none, we're adjourned.
Jeez. I think.
Oh, did you have?
No, Mayor. Let's just call it.
Okay, thank you. I didn't see your hand here.